What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Champion Living Podcast, where we believe that consistency, perseverance, and not taking life too seriously are the keys to success. I'm Doug, the founder and owner and head coach of Champion Living Fitness. Each week, I'll be joined by my coaching staff with the vision of providing trustworthy information about fitness, nutrition, and mindset, and how this all applies to being a professional rodeo athlete, as well as people from all walks of life. Are you ready to become a champion? Let's go.
Guys, we got exciting news. We talked about it already. December 5th through the 14th, we will be at the Westgate Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. We will be live with our podcast in their lobby, and iBar is right when you walk through their double doors at their bellhop and taxi drop-off. We will be immediately on your right when you walk straight into the lobby. We have a badass list of guests coming in, all the way from Stetson Jorgensen, Chase Dougherty, John Franzen, Kayla Bennett, Josh Frost. I feel weird because I have Richie and Paige Champion, and I'm not having them on just because they're my brother and sister-in-law, but it's because they're best at what they do. Okay, it's not my fault. My family is badasses. Anyways, we're stoked to be there. Come watch us. Come hang out with us. We're going to be there at the watch party after for each round as well, which will be taking place. I believe it's at, I don't even know what time the round starts. Maybe it's 6:15 p.m. They will have the rounds up there. Skip and Guy will be doing an awesome watch party, giving away all kinds of things, hunting trips, cowboy hats, boots, you name it. There's free giveaways for everyone attending. So come hang out with us. We can't wait to see you there. What's up, big dog?
What's going on?
Man, I'm just adjusting to this no daylight until 9 a.m. in the Northland, and it's throwing me way out of whack.
Well, you've only got a couple more days of it. Daylight savings is
But
this
then
weekend?
it'll be dark at 4 p.m.
Yeah, I know. That's what I
Like,
don't look forward to
I
every
know,
year.
it's the worst.
I hate that.
Worst.
I hated last night driving home. I met with some guys last night, and we met at 6 o'clock, and the sun was like already going down. And so like by 7:30 when I was heading home, it was like, man, it's so dark. I hate this.
Dude, 2 days ago, I fell asleep at 7:30 because it got dark, and my body's okay. Yeah, it's 9 o'clock, time to go to bed. And then I'm awake at 2 a.m. because I've slept a full night by then, and I'm so messed up. But the sleep is not our friend lately. That's okay.
Yeah. I need to get her dialed in too. My sleep is. I got sick last week, and I've been dealing with that. And I know that it's because I had a couple bad nights of sleep in a row. And sure enough, it's just that time of year, stuff's going around, and you get behind on sleep, and then your immune system goes down, and you're susceptible to all that crap, man. It was like,
oh man,
right on cue. It was like 2 bad nights of sleep in a row, boom, sick. And so now I've been struggling to get that back on track. But I did get, this is cool. You don't need this because you wake up so dang early anyway, but I got a sunrise alarm clock, and that has been a game changer.
What's that do?
So it like slowly, and you can set it to whatever time beforehand you want. So I think mine's set to like a half an hour before I want to wake up. It slowly starts to get brighter. And then by the time my alarm goes off, which my alarm now with this alarm clock is like just birds chirping really loud, it'll be like full bright. And so like it lights up the whole room, like the sun had come up. And so I'd set that at 5:30 to wake up at 5:30. And so starting at 5 a.m., like it slowly starts to get brighter. And then at 5:30, like it's really loud bird chirping sounds, and the sun, it feels like the sun's out. And that has been a very good investment. Yeah,
I definitely don't need one of those. You're right. My brain does
no, you don't
automatically, but that sounds really nice.
It wouldn't help you, but it helps somebody else.
Well, like the abruptness of most alarms too. It pisses you off.
It turns you. It initiates that like your fight or flight like right away, first thing in the morning, gets you pissed off, and I don't like that. Like it never has worked for me. I've always snoozed alarms. I've never woken up like on time to alarms, and so I was like,
where'd you get it? Just Amazon or something?
Yeah, Amazon. It's the Hatch brand. There's several different brands. Like
I've seen those. I have seen those.
But and so this one's got I settled on this one because it had a wind down routine too. And so I just I set the wind down routine on my phone, like whatever I want it to do, play music or do a meditation or whatever. and then you hit a button when you're ready to start winding down, and it starts out whatever color you set it to. And so mine's a dark red, and then it's like the sunset, so like it'll slowly dim over a half an hour, and it'll play like some acoustic music while I'm winding down, and then boom, the lights go out, and then it has like a sound machine feature too, so it'll play campfire sounds all night long. And
Nice.
so like my sleep, aside from last night, my sleep this last week has been incredible because I've been sticking to this wind down routine and then like this slower wake up time instead of that abrupt alarm just pissing you off first thing in the morning. So
Dude, yeah. Have
it
you
is.
heard of, since we're on this like recovery kind of thing, and I also wanted to, I have a couple things I want to talk about before we get into the main stuff today. I've noticed on my Whoop, right? And I know HRV is the difference in the highest to the lowest amount of beats, right? The timing between the beats of your heart.
Mhm.
And that is going to be a higher range if you're doing some kind of cardio or something like that, right? I always notice that my recoveries are lower when I'm less active.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? So unless I've had like multiple days of just overreaching, it's like the opposite effect when I don't work out or I don't do things. My recovery is just mediocre. It's always in
Yep.
the yellow. It's never in the green. And I had 3 days of that. We got back from hunting last week, so I've been off for 4 or 5 days, and my recovery was really good after the second day, and then all week it's just been blah. And so I started getting back to lifting, dude. I haven't lifted consistently in a month and a half, and that felt so dang good. And then I did get to go out with a buddy and hunt yesterday, but it was just a ruck, dude. I didn't have a rifle with me. I didn't have a tag for the unit. So I just had a pack, my hiking sticks, and we were walking. And last night, my recovery was nuts. It was like 98%. My HRV was through the roof. And it always makes me think back to like my body responds so much better to me using it than it
Yeah.
does the over resting it.
Yeah, I've noticed the same thing over the last couple of years, and I think there's like a minimum dose of activity that our bodies
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
to perform correctly. And like we talk about that more in a sense of, hey, you'll feel better if you go for a walk or lift weights or whatever. But I think I don't know the exact science behind it or why it's like that. But yeah, I've noticed the same thing, that if you do use your body in a move
Yep.
in a non-sedentary way, don't just sit on the couch or sit at your desk all day and not do anything. But if you're out there getting 10,000 steps a day, or you're engaging in strength training several days a week, like, recovery tends to look a lot better on these wearable devices.
And I even notice my sleep is so much better when I'm active, and when I have those days of not necessarily totally sedentary, but way less activity than normal, I don't sleep near as good. I wake up
Mhm.
way more times throughout the night. My deep sleep is minimal, but you need to work hard to achieve that REM cycle as well of sleep. You're not just going to hit that sitting around all day.
Yeah.
Anyway, just an interesting point I was thinking about, and it just is there's a fine balance to all this, to increasing your fitness or just increasing your how you feel, but there's also a fine line to you have to recover as well. But what's the perfect mixture, right? And that's all independent, and so you have to play with that yourself. And that's what these wearable devices do for me. I get to tell you exactly how my body responds. Whether it's 100% accurate on the number or not, it's a trend that I can track and it's consistent, right? So
Mhm.
it's cool. I like it. I like getting to hack these things and figure out what my body performs better on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Yeah, I've really changed my tone on that recently, thinking about not only like my life, but like training my athletes too. Thinking about fitness in general as a recovery game. Like, what is going to improve recovery the most? Is that more exercise for some people? Is that less exercise for some people? Whatever it is that what's going to improve recovery. And so like I've changed my whole outlook on that, as far as I don't always need to push harder in the gym. Sometimes I need to just do what I need to do to make sure that I get the best night's sleep, because ultimately if I get the best night's sleep, that's going to set up the next day, and the set up the next day, the next day, the next day, and it all
Mm-hmm.
compounds.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's exactly it, dude. The next thing I had that was random, grounding sheets. Have you looked at these?
I have no idea that is. No.
You don't know what a grounding sheet is? Okay.
Grounding sheets.
Yeah, so they go on your bed, and I've seen a lot of reviews, not studies, reviews from people using them saying that the quality of sleep increases greatly. You're basically, what a grounding sheet is doing is it's woven out of conductive material, and that material connects to the grounding wire in your electrical circuits in your house. So like your plug has two plugs and then the middle plug, that's your ground plug, right? You would
Mhm.
plug it right into there. And what it's doing essentially is connecting your body to the earth's electrical energy, and it sounds
What?
real wild. Yes.
I'm looking
But
it up right now.
yes, it's that's why I was asking if you'd heard of it because it's
I have not.
really new. I've seen a lot of things popping up on my feed about it, but it's supposed to improve your sleep quality, reduce inflammation, stress, chronic pain, improve your mood and energy levels, and lower blood pressure. Again, I do not know if this is legit, but I think I'm going to try it and I'm
Yeah.
going to report back because it
There's
makes
quite a
sense
few
to me.
companies that have them too. Like, I'm
Oh, yeah,
looking
they're
them up,
not
like,
just like a
yeah,
yeah, they're
there's
not
several
totally
of
new.
them.
There's a few of them that are getting out there and doing it and putting this product out there.
There's a grounding mat that, like, goes under your
There's
sheets,
l
it looks like.
Yeah,
There's grounding bed sheets, and they plug into the grounding port on the wall socket. That is wild.
yeah, and it just made me think about the time we're living in is so different than any other time that
Oh,
has
yeah.
been in the sense of other external factors that are not great for us, and we don't think about that, but, like, the Wi-Fi is terrible for us. Pretty much any of these technological things that we're putting out there, putting these waves into through us, essentially,
Mhm.
right? And so we're having to do different things to combat those or help. It's all stress on the
Mhm.
body. So help get rid of that stress. And this seems like a very simple thing. So simple yet that it seems like it's witchcraft.
Which and
You know?
it could be a gimmick. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
but
I think I'm gonna try it.
yeah.
I'm gonna try
I
it
don't think
and
there's any
report
harm in
back.
trying stuff. I love being, like, the human guinea pig for stuff like this. Like,
Yeah,
when new
especially
stuff
something
comes
like
out,
that. That's I don't
like,
have
let's
to put anything in my body. We're good to go. Like,
yeah, let's try it. Why not?
theoretically not gonna die here. Yeah, it's good. But I thought it was an interesting thing to think about, look at, and man, even the last century, right? We haven't been surrounded by
Dude, the
electrical
last 10
things.
years,
Yeah,
like, I was
yeah,
talking to a
exactly.
client about sleep the other night, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm having a hard time sleeping." I'm like, "Well, you're probably scrolling on TikTok too long." I was like, "10 years ago, we didn't look at our phones when we were laying in bed. That wasn't a thing. Now that's, like,
No.
commonplace. People lay in bed and look at their phones and scroll and doom scroll or play games or whatever." I was like, "That wasn't a thing just 10 years ago."
Mm-mm.
Like, that's wild, like, how far these these helpful technological advances have come. They're very helpful, of course. Like, that's I can't deny that there's benefits to it, but the drawbacks are like
I think
huge.
that eventually we'll start seeing not a reversal, but a responsible way to use
Yeah,
technology.
for
And
sure.
you'll see
It's just too
classes for
new
kids
right
in
now.
school and
Yeah.
how to use this and not become addicted to it or not let it control your life because it is, man. For a lot of people, it is an addiction. And I've got friends like that. Be having a conversation with them and they will be having a conversation. Then all of a sudden they just stop talking. You just see them scrolling and they don't,
It's
whoa.
totally subconscious. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally subconscious. Sorry, I didn't put my phone on do not disturb, so someone called me and
That's
my
funny you're telling the
everything went
story.
away. Yeah.
Telling the
But
story about being on the phone and then your phone goes off.
yeah, just such a distraction, right?
It
But
is,
it
man.
is wild, man. Yeah, your brain just subconsciously does it because I catch myself doing it. I'll check
Mhm.
freaking Instagram, put my phone down, go do something, and I 2.5 minutes later, I'll have my phone in my hand. I'm seeing the same thing I just scrolled through. I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like that. Why did
Mhm.
you even pick that up? It doesn't make
Yep.
sense.
Yeah, I
Um,
removed all the social apps off the main screen of my phone, so because what I had noticed, like, it was a reflex. I would pick up my phone, and the closest thing to where my thumb could reach was always Instagram, and so you could
mhm,
just tap Instagram, like, subconsciously, and it would pop up, and then before you know it, you're stuck on it. And so, like, I removed all apps that I tend to tap on like that off of
mhm.
the home screen, so if I need to get on it, I have to search it, and then I can get it. And then something else I've started doing is like either turning my phone off completely or on do not disturb for at least a period throughout the day where I'm like
Mhm.
not distracted by notifications and phone calls and stuff. Like phone calls that's another thing. Like a little bit longer, but like more like 20 years ago, people couldn't just call you at any time of the day. Like
No.
some people had beepers. Like you could beep somebody and then be like, "Hey, well, when I get to a phone, now I know I need to call you back." But like
I think we
you
should go
didn't.
back to the beepers. I'm
For
about it. Can
sure
we
we
go back to the
should.
beepers?
For sure we should go back to the beepers.
Dude, okay, I'm all over the board. I haven't
Yeah, I
taken my
know it.
meds today, but Do you notice with the younger generation? So even my clients, I've got some kids that I coach that are like 18 years old, 17 years old. Getting them on a phone call, I think they'd
Mhm.
rather pull their fingernails off than have a phone call with
Mhm.
somebody. They just want to text.
Yep.
I could call them, they won't answer. I'll text them, they'll respond instantly.
Yep.
It's so wild that this generation would rather text over a 20-minute period that it would have taken 20 seconds to have that conversation on a phone call.
Mhm.
It's just crazy to me where that's headed and how they're almost I feel like they're like afraid to talk in person. They'd much rather just type in.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know if you've noticed that at all with your younger guys.
I have a weird fear of phone calls too. I'd rather go somewhere and talk to somebody like face to face than
Ah,
talk to them on the
I see
phone.
what
If
you're
I had
saying.
to make an appointment, I would rather drive to the dentist office and make an appointment in person than I would call them. And
Okay.
I don't know where that comes from or what it is, but it's yeah, I do have a weird I don't know, it's almost a fear. I don't know, a phobia. I don't know
So when you were
what
a
it is.
kid, did you
I don't like
call your
calling people I
call
don't
your
know.
buddies or your friends, like, from
Oh
the
yeah.
landline,
Yeah.
like, all the time?
All the time. Yeah.
Huh.
And talk for hours.
Did you
Like,
hate
yeah.
it then?
No, I don't think so. I hate
That's so weird.
I think it's like calling people that I don't know. If it's somebody I know really well, like I have no problem calling them. But like when you're calling a complete stranger, like it feels weird to me. I'd rather make an in-person impression. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know where it comes from, but
Oh, I get that.
I've thought on that a lot because Heather will tell me
Somehow
to
I
like,
don't think these
"Hey,
kids
you
would
need
be
to
any
call the
more
mechanic
comfortable
or you
face
need
to
to call
face.
whatever." And I'm like, "I don't wanna call them. You call them."
Oh, dude,
And
yeah,
I'm like,
that's
"I don't know where
my
that
life.
comes from." But
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I don't know. I think these kids would probably not be very comfortable face to face either. It just
yeah,
seems like
and
they
probably
live
not because, like, their whole life is lived online.
it's the culture is just so changed so much, man. It's wild. I hope it's gonna swing back. Do what you do with, like, your kids, right? And Logan's kids and our whole generation, us as parents, our kids, I think, are gonna be the next swing of being back outside, doing stuff
Yeah.
away from technology, not just totally headfirst into video games and being inside. It it's refreshing to see every time that you guys go out. You guys are at a state park. You're going to look up
Mhm.
fossils or go fishing or whatever it is, you're teaching them about being outside.
Yeah. Somebody asked we're an adult, we were Cannon had to get his teeth looked at the other day, and one of the ladies at the dentist office was like, "Oh, do you play Minecraft?" And he's like,
What's that?
"What are you talking about?" Like, he's never played a video game in his life.
Yep.
There's a couple apps and stuff that he'll use for, like, learning and phonics and things like that, but he's never played a video game in his life. Like, I haven't owned a video game system in I don't know how long. Just not something that we do. So,
No, we don't. I never really got it into the video games either. They became very popular when I was probably 12. I think the first PlayStation came out, 10, something like that. And then it obviously escalated so
yeah,
quickly in
exploded.
that sense, right? I just never got into it. I was always outside doing stuff, but it's just interesting observations that I've had over the last couple of weeks with some random things. But now that we wasted 20 minutes of letting Doug's ADHD
I
take the
don't think
best
we
of
wasted it. I like that. That was a
it.
fun conversation because it's all relevant stuff. Makes you
I'm
think because
yeah.
but yeah, I'm
No,
going
go
further
ahead.
down the rabbit hole, but we do it subconsciously. Like it's so prevalent in our society now. Like we just do it subconsciously, and I push back on everything that I do subconsciously. And so if I do something like on automatic or like without thinking about it, I like once I notice it, I start to say, okay, why do I have this behavior or why do I do this thing? And
Mhm.
kind of try and get to the bottom of it at least a little bit and make a correction if it needs to. But
That's a really good trait to have, man. To
yeah.
to be as self-aware like that. I try and do that better because I am the worst at becoming automatic at things and doing them without thinking, and all of a sudden I've done something all day and I can't even tell you how many times I've done it, right?
Mhm.
Probably dipping was my biggest thing. That is the one habit that I do subconsciously all day, right?
Mhm.
And so it's a task for me to have to think about not doing that. And why do you really want that, or are you just doing it because it's part of the habit? And it's whether it's that or the cell phone or whatever, it's just good to be aware of when things have control of you and you're not
Mhm.
controlling it, right?
That's it. That's exactly it. Like when something's controlling you, it's probably not at a point where it's helpful anymore.
Yeah.
But
Um, I'm still
But
having
yeah,
the combo about the Zens, but that's okay.
yeah, we all have those things
Work in
too.
progress,
Like
baby.
and I don't think you're never gonna squash one and then be completely free of some habit or restraint. Like you're always
Dude,
gonna have another one.
do you think because we're coaches, people automatically assume we just don't have that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I do because
Like,
when I'm finding myself like when I'm coaching clients on like specific habits, I'm like, listen, I'm not telling you from like my high horse this thing. I'm telling you this because I struggle with it too. This is like the biggest part of my life that I'm struggling in right now, and this is what I'm trying to do to overcome it. And so, yeah, I think last night again meeting with some other guys, like they're not into fitness at all, like I am, and so they break out a bag of Halloween candy or whatever and have some Reese's cups, and they're like, "Oh, you want one?" I'm like, "No, I don't." And they're like, "Oh, you're trying to be healthy," and I'm like, "No, I'm full. I just don't want one." It's
yeah,
not me
has
trying to be
nothing to
healthy
do
at
with
all.
that.
Like at any other time, yeah, of course I would grab one. Like we just ate
Oh,
pizza, dude. Like I'm not above any of this stuff.
we're just normal dudes
Yeah.
who enjoy
I just
sharing our
think about it
struggles.
more than you probably do.
That's the thing, is you
Yeah.
just it's part of what we do, so we do think about it more than the average human. And also the average person just doesn't understand that those things, and it's not their job to,
Mhm.
right?
And
Like,
I that's a really good segue because I think that's where a lot of these myths come from.
absolutely.
Is they hear something online or they see something online or in a magazine publication years ago. Tabloid magazines are the evil that spread these bad myths a long time ago. I remember being in the grocery store as a little kid, seeing things about the Atkins diet and like all these
Oh,
other
yeah.
South Beach diet or like all these other things. Now it's worse because we don't have to go to the grocery store and see them in a tabloid, and we can see them all day on our phones. And so like these myths are easy to fall for, I would say.
Oh, man. So easy to fall for, and in today's world with the way that people word things, it's very they're usually 100% false when you actually look into them, but
Yeah.
most people look at one thing for a glance and move on, and that's what they've come to believe just off of that one glance, right? And jumping into these myths, this first one we've covered before, but I, we've heard this for every scenario. If you lift weights, and this is women is where we heard it for first, but you'll get too bulky. And now with rodeo athletes, we've been hearing this from the very beginning. I don't lift weights because I'll get too big to ride
Mhm.
or I'll get too heavy to be competitive. And fact or fiction?
Definitely fiction.
100%. We know a lot of things about resistance training that know that state you are just because you lift weights and take place, or what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Just because you lift weights
Partaking
doesn't,
just
yeah,
yeah,
just
because you
partake in
partaking
resist.
in
Yes,
resistance training, you're gonna automatically get big. Yeah, yeah,
you're going to be the
big,
Hulk.
definitely a
Nah.
big myth. And there's plenty of studies out there that have looked at training volume and load management and all those things. And there's a pretty specific recipe that you have to actually build muscle, and a very large portion of that is actually in happens in the kitchen, not even in the gym. So
Hmm.
the fact that you think you're gonna the best analogy that I always hear is if you're afraid to lift weights because you think you're going to get too bulky like a bodybuilder, then why do you drive a car? Because aren't you afraid that you're going to turn into a NASCAR driver? It's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
it's the dose that matters, like not the act of driving. Driving doesn't make you a good driver or a NASCAR driver. You're not going to drive too fast just because you drive. You're not going to get too big just because you strength train.
Right. And I think most guys look at a bodybuilder and they think of lifting weights and they automatically say, I don't need to look like that to be a rodeo athlete, or even just a general person. I don't want to look like that. Right. And we've told you before, but we'll tell you again, there are specific things that have to be done when it comes to, Paul was saying, the volume, the amount of reps that you're doing, the weight of those reps, how many sets you're doing of that, how often you're doing that per week. That all will lead to results like being a bodybuilder.
Yeah,
And they're
not to
not the
mention when you're
same.
looking at the peak of a sport, a bodybuilder, like they're also eating 6,000 calories and doing massive amounts of anabolic steroids. So like those are two big ingredients that you are not even getting close to, like
Yeah.
that have resulted in them looking the way that they look. So the the fact that you think that you might get too big is not it's not real.
Yeah, and I think that when guys or girls have had that experience where maybe they did put on too much muscle, they were doing a plan that was set up for bodybuilding
for
rather
bodybuilding.
than the functional strength that is needed to be a professional or just any kind of rodeo athlete.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong, hypertrophy, those kinds of exercises do have a small place for the rodeo athlete. It's just not your
absolutely.
entire training. So we've got to look at the differences in that. And when you start talking about functional strength and functional quote unquote training for rodeo athletes, everything looks so much different. The reps are different. The sets are different. The tempo, the speed at which we're having you control the movement is different. The way that we set up and design training programs for our athletes is designed 100% around their sport.
Hmm.
And the problem that we're running into when we have these myths is the person knowing exercise but not knowing the sport of rodeo. So they're misprogramming essentially. Or the athlete thinking they know more about fitness than they do and getting a plan that has really nothing to do with making them better in the arena. And again, most of these plans you get online are going to be targeted towards strength or hypertrophy. And if you eat enough, you're going to get bigger and gain muscle because that's the point of those stimuluses.
Yeah, yeah, and but like you'll see some exercises that are the same. Like you'll do some of the same exercises that a bodybuilder would do. But like you said, everything else looks different. Like the amount of times you're performing that exercise are going to be different. The load that you're using is going to be different. The setup of the structure of the exercises and the program are going to be different. So yeah, it's just if you have a well structured program, you are not going to get too big.
Yes. And second thing I hear all the time about lifting weights is I'll get slow and I'll get stiff from lifting weights. And we
Hmm.
know that, in fact, the 100% opposite is true. If you can move a weighted load through full range of motion and control it, you are going to be much more mobile, much more explosive out of those bottom positions, totally avoiding slow and stiff.
Yeah.
Like it's personal experience. I'm telling you right now. I would not be near as mobile or near as agile as I still am at 35 years old if I was not continuing resistance training.
Hmm.
There's no way. If I didn't resistance train, I would be in a world of hurt for
Yeah.
sure. You
Yeah.
have to maintain that strength in your body.
Yeah. Something I've been telling my clients a lot is like intent and intensity. Like those are the two things that you need to be thinking about because we want the intensity to be really high because you need to be performing exercises in a way that like they're mimicking what's going on in the arena. Like we're going 100% for a very short amount of time. We're not going 50% for a long period of time. If you go 50% in the gym for a long period of time, that's more on the hypertrophy end of things. And so if you half-ass a workout and you're not thinking about form with your intent and your intensity is much lower than what it should be, you're probably going to do partial ranges of motion. You're probably going to do way too many reps. That's more of a recipe for getting too big or bulky or
Mm-hmm.
stiff. That's what's going to happen. If you put your full effort into it though, you're focusing on the full range of motion. You're focusing on getting the most intensity out or performing the exercises at higher intensities, then you're right where you need to be and you're not going to get too stiff and you're not going to get too slow.
Absolutely. That leads us right into this next myth. I'm going to jump around here, Paul, on our list, but I want to talk about flexibility coming only from static stretching
Yeah.
because I think this ties right into where we were just at. If you don't know what static stretching is just holding a stretch.
Yeah.
So
Stretching how you'd probably imagine it in your head when
normal,
you think
yeah.
of stretching. Yeah.
Yes, that will increase your flexibility, but it is not the only way to increase your flexibility, and it is definitely not going to increase your mobility, which
Hmm.
to us or to me, that is the most important thing, is being mobile and strong throughout those full ranges of motion. Can you talk about or start us into how overstretching or improper stretching can actually be detrimental?
Yeah, for sure. And so we've all experienced this. If you played any sports throughout your like young life, like in grade school, you definitely stretched before doing any activity, before practice or before a game or whatever. And the studies are very, very clear that like just doing static stretching immediately before physical activity actually increases your risk of injury because initiating this rest and response or rest and recovery response rather in our brain that like it's time to slow down, it's time to wind down, I need to relax when we do static stretching. That's not the state you want to be in right before you go and try to do something really demanding or really difficult. And so that leads to an increase of injury. The other kind of drawback of static stretching is yes, you can reach new ranges of motion within your session. While you're stretching, you will get into a deeper stretch if you're being intentful about it, but it's going to snap right back. You're not going to come away from that session with lasting change. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to you're going to return back to your normal state rather quickly. If you're really consistent with it, you might see some progress over long term, but it's not a magic pill, so to speak. Whereas dynamic stretching and mobility work, you can see progress immediately, and those effects, if you're doing it correctly, will last much longer. They'll last until your next session. They'll last throughout a few days or so, and you can continue to make progress a lot faster. And then that's also a better way to activate your body, get ready, prime
Mm-hmm.
yourself for physical activity.
Exactly. I was going to say that is the best way to prime everything, to send that signal that we're going to need you. We're going to need these
Mhm.
muscles in this part of our body
Yeah.
to perform right now. And you've got to send that signal to your brain. Otherwise, you may unknowingly, but you're sending the wrong, you're crossing wires,
Yeah.
and it's just not going to work. And the the biggest frustration I hear from athletes here is, if they haven't done mobility, they have been doing their static stretching only, and they say I stretch, but I still feel stiff when I go do whatever it is, when I go to make my barrel run or go to get on my bull. And it's again because of the things that you just went through, Paul, about you have to be sending the priming signal. So we need the dynamic stretching, we need the mobility work. Even on your recovery days, doing some active recovery where you're moving through these full ranges of motion in a really controlled setting is going to be really beneficial and allowing you to increase just your overall health. But the joint health is the biggest thing through our body, and those full ranges of motion more than you would rather than just static stretching. Again, static
Yeah.
stretching has a place, but I just think it's better for cool down type things once a day, maybe right before you go to bed. It sends the right signal to chill and relax.
Yeah. One more thing on this topic. I started a new client this past week, and I sent him the pre-ride warm up that we'd been teaching at the last couple of OPAs, and the majority of that warm up is all dynamic stretching work. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's some other things that we do, jumping jacks at the beginning. We do some like fortification type exercises at the end, but like the majority of it, the bulk of it is all just dynamic stretching. And I just got on my first bull since starting like the program. I have never been more prepared to get on in my entire life. Because felt amazing when I nodded my head. I can't believe it. And it all comes back to we're just getting ready in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not grabbing that deep lunge hold or throwing your leg up on the panel or whatever. And we're just warming up correctly. And it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And a really easy thing for me to think about when I'm thinking about a warm up is if we're not consistently getting at a higher speed as we go and getting closer to the speed I'm going to need to perform at, we're probably doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So all those guys that sit there and throw the leg up on the fence and a lunge hold or whatever, they're like dead when they're getting on. You don't see them pumped up or moving around. They're just sitting there chill because that's what they've told their body to do, is chill.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool to hear just their first experience with that with a new client. Like
Yeah.
you just changed his whole mindset when it came to getting on. I've had the same experiences with guys, and most of it again was like feeling lethargic when they're getting on, and they
Mm-hmm.
were eating enough, they were doing checking all the boxes there, and it was 100% how they were priming their body or lack thereof.
Yep.
So it's it's important. Prime the body. Stretching is important, but it is not the only way to increase your mobility.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a time and a place for it. I
1000%.
think, yeah, we should definitely talk about that just real quick. But
Yeah, like I said, like in the cool down, and after
yeah.
you're done performing your exercise, I do it daily before I go to sleep because I work on my breath work as well at the same time, and it just primes me ready to go to bed.
Yeah, before bed.
Mhm.
That is a perfect time to do it.
And
Absolutely.
I think it's safe to say if you're doing things before bed, you probably shouldn't be doing them before you compete at anything.
Yeah,
So that should show
exactly.
where to differentiate it,
If
right?
it's an effective way to put you to sleep, it's probably not an effective
Probably
way to
not
get
going
you
to
ready
work.
to ride.
Hot topic always is a
Mhm.
hot topic, and ooh, It fires me up because we hear this on a regular basis, and the statement usually is something around the only way that I can increase my endurance or my stamina is if I run for miles or bike for miles or whatever.
Yeah.
And we know that, yes, you could increase your endurance doing that, but we damn sure know that it is not the only way to do it. And for rodeo athletes, it is not the
Yeah,
best
I
way to
think
do it.
that's what it is. It's sport specific. Like if you're thinking about your sport and the demands of your sport, like that just doesn't jive. Again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Like if you go run 3 miles, like what level of effort are you putting out? It's probably pretty light to moderate because you're not going to be able to sustain a high intensity for that amount of time. So you're
Yeah.
going light to moderate
I
in
think they
intensity over a period of
interrupt you.
time. Yeah.
They people mistake the feeling of the intensity as that end feeling after the
Yes, the
feeling of
end
running
result.
3 miles, like, that was so intense.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of it, you were not able to put out anywhere close to your max intensity level because you're having to do running 3 miles takes at least most people half an hour. So
Mhm.
sorry, continue.
Yeah. So like a better way to frame intensity is think of like 10 seconds of some activity. If you can speak after that activity, you're not going at all out intensity. If you are so like gassed at the end of 10 seconds of a certain activity that you can't even talk, like that's intensity. Like that's going hard. And I haven't ran 3 miles in a very long time. I might have only ran 3 miles at one time in my entire life when I ran a five, but you can talk like you're out of breath for a little bit, but that's because it's the duration is long. Like it takes you almost 30 minutes to run 3 miles. And so that's very different than giving 100% for 8 seconds or 10 seconds.
And it's not running 3 miles is not sport specific, quote unquote. It does not relate to our sport until the event is a foot race with the horse or bull.
Mhm.
Then we can start running miles and it would be very appropriate. Now, the frustration we hear, I think, from most athletes or even just people asking us is they run all the time. They run these miles, few miles a day, and they still are gassed out during their rides. And what Paul was talking about, the 10 seconds of max effort, well, that's what each event is needing when it comes to our quote unquote cardio, right?
Mhm.
Our you have to be practicing all out intensity for 10 seconds. So when we start talking about building your endurance, building your stamina for the sport, doing sprint work is going to be a much better option than running miles.
Yeah.
Or like hit training is another good thing that you could put into your system. Again, maybe once a week, not doing that every single
Yeah,
day.
it's not an everyday thing, yeah.
No, these
It's
are
a form
all
of conditioning really at that point.
right. And circuit training, these working for 10 to 20 seconds of something and then resting for 10 to 20 seconds and going back to it, finishing 3 exercises and then resting for, 2 or 3 minutes. All of that, when you heard it, working for 10 to 20 seconds, that's about the time it takes to do every single event in rodeo. And then the rest is the biggest thing because when, like Paul was talking about the intensity and as it goes, especially for running and sprinting alike, you have to rest longer for the higher outputs. So
Mhm.
the higher intensity that you're doing, so those 10-second outputs of max intensity, you need to rest. I think it's 1 to 10 or 1 to 12 ratio. So 10 seconds, you're resting for 2 minutes. So you can recreate that intensity again.
Yep.
If you shorten the interval rest, you'll hit a point where you will not be able to repeat that same intensity. And we want to get the best reps we can each time. That's why we rest for those certain amount of times, even though they feel long at most of
Yeah.
the time while we're doing it. You're like, I got to go. No, if
Yeah.
you actually just wait, it'd be a lot better. And you're going to develop the energy systems that you're actually trying to train.
Yeah, to use another car analogy, like low impact, steady state cardio, like longer term, lower intensity type cardio, like running for a mile or more. That's going to be like more equivalent of like your like an electric vehicle. It's going to get efficient at going a certain amount of distance without using too much energy. What we're training for rodeo athletes is more like a drag racer. Like we need to be able to go 0 to 100 in 10 seconds or like in less than 10 seconds. Like we need to be going super fast, super hard. And then a dragster is not going to just get back on the starting line after running a race real quick. It's not going to come right back and go again. It's going to overheat and explode if it did that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to be able to We need to run at max intensity, short distance. I say run, but there's other forms of activity we could use this with. Sprint style intensity, like all out effort, short distance, recover from that.
Lots of rest. Even taking away from like the drag car race, looking at, again, back to rodeo, your reride, it doesn't happen in 30 seconds later. It doesn't happen 60 seconds later. Most of the time, it's happening at a minimum of 5 minutes later. So you don't have to be good at these quick bursts repetitively, boom, 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 boom. You need to be good at an all-out max effort with enough time to rest and repeat that again.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you only have to do that twice in a night or 3 times in a night, right? So
I was watching the Three Hills Rodeo from Indianapolis the other night, and some poor guy, I can't remember his name, but he ended up getting on 2 re-ride bulls, and he was like out in the middle. And then, so this is the exception of the rule. This doesn't always happen, but he got on one in the middle of the perf, got a re-ride. They load him another one at the end of the section of bulls, gets another re-ride, and they run another one right back in. And I was like, okay, this poor guy this is the one instance where that doesn't jive with what it normally happens. But usually they're pushing you to another event or later on in the perf, or even bucking you after the performance is over. So at least in the bulls.
But even if that happens, if you were doing your sprint work with proper recovery, you would still be
you're
good
going to be
there.
okay. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Let's move on to nutrition, because this is for all athletes. I think this is all people in general. Not all, but I think this is a myth among the general population that if you work out consistently and regularly, you can eat whatever you want and you will see results. And we could not be further from the truth there. You've heard the terms, you cannot outtrain a bad diet.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I have seen it firsthand. Hundreds of clients, man, I've worked with this on over the last, I can't believe I'm going to say this, 10 years, 11 years I've been a coach. Just seems like yesterday, but you have to fuel your body appropriately to see the performance gains in the work that you're doing. And especially if one of your goals is aesthetics, how your body looks, you have to be even more dialed on what you're putting into your body. And the biggest misconception we see, calories are important. Don't get me wrong. You have to be eating a certain caloric intake, but the balance of those calories, how your macronutrients make that up, is the most important thing. And the reason I say that is because I've worked with a lot of people that I do their numbers. Let's say this guy needs to be eating 2,500 calories a day. We pull it up, look at his food logs. He's eating 2,500 calories a day, nailing it. Start looking a little deeper. Well, the ratios of the macronutrients, our protein, our carbohydrates, and our fats is way off from being balanced. And what I mean by that is, yes, he's eating the calorie number, but 60% of that is carbs, 30% of that is fat, and 10% of that is protein.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we start looking at the fuel going in and what your body does with those fuel sources. It is going to do what it's meant to. It's going to start storing those energy sources as fat so it can use it later. And again, 10% is protein. So you have almost no muscle building qualities going into your nutrition there for all the strength training that you've done. It's just going to continue to give you the results that you're not looking for.
Yep.
So dialing this in and really being specific about the numbers of macronutrients, not just the calories that you're eating, is going to be a huge advantage for rodeo athletes, especially during the summer run.
Yep. Yeah. You can use another car analogy. Like if you got a drag race car, if you got a drag racing car, you're not going to put regular unleaded E87 in that fuel tank. It's not going to work. It's not going to perform well because that is the dirtiest form of fuel that is legal for a street car. Like it is not going to happen. So like you need high quality racing fuel for the best performance. And it goes the same way with our nutrition. Like you can do all the work in the gym you want to, you can build that engine, but that engine's not going to run without the right fuel.
Mm-hmm. And another thing I want to talk about with nutrition is one of the other frustrations I believe that I hear the most is that they don't know is tied to their nutrition is feeling tired or sluggish as the day continues, or not recovering, feeling very sore from training sessions maybe they shouldn't be so sore from. That almost is always tied to nutrition. And if you're not eating enough fuel to cover the output, you are going to get tired. And I deal with this on a personal basis. And usually around 2 or 3 o'clock, I'll start getting this really sluggish feeling, like I'm unmotivated, don't feel that great. I'm like, well, I drank enough water. I'm like, oh man, I need a snack. I need a little bit of food to keep going. And it's almost immediate after I finish that snack. My body's like, hey, ready to go. Let's go do some more stuff. It's easy to think about and ignore those signs that your body is giving you. But uh, the more you listen to them and understand that, like how your body reacts to certain foods, certain fuels, again, only giving yourself the upper hand here, because majority of athletes are not thinking about that right now.
Yeah, 100%. It's such a hard barrier to break down too, I've found with clients, and I don't know if it's just the difficulty of sticking to nutrition compliance. It just takes work. Like at the bottom, at the end of the day, like you just have to work towards it. And I think maybe that scares some people, but it seems like connecting the energy to nutrition is like one of the things that I struggle with the most for my clients. And maybe I need to work on how I present it, or, but
I think having things to look for rather than the mirror is huge. Like how they feel cognitively, how they feel, through energy levels throughout the day. They have to be able to stick to something long enough to start realizing that that normal that they knew when they were
yeah,
eating bad things or not eating enough was not normal to feel like, right? And John Franzen, I know he won't mind if I use him, but he's a great example of someone that he just didn't know that his habits weren't ideal for what he wanted to achieve. So he was eating a majority of processed foods, majority of time not eating near enough throughout the day, and then was drinking a good amount of alcohol throughout the summertime. And he didn't realize how bad he actually felt because he had never felt
right.
good. And that was the main turning point for him. I've been working with John for, I think, 4 years we're going on now. And the whole first year was this up and down swinging of going back and forth to his old lifestyle to what he was trying to implement. As long as he kept getting back to it, he started to realize more and more how it was the things that he was doing in that old type of lifestyle that were actually causing the way that he was feeling. And he had gotten so accustomed to feeling like that, that was the normal. He didn't know what it felt like to feel good.
Yeah.
And now here we are 4 years later, and the summer's hard for everyone, especially a stock contractor. But we know that that's going to be hard for him. He'll text me now. It's once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, but he'll catch himself. Dude, I could feel myself going downhill, not feeling good, not feeling as sharp. And I just looked at what I was doing throughout the day. And I
Yep.
wasn't doing any of the things I had been doing. I had reverted back to that old habits because, again, you can make these new habits in your home, and it's really easy. But the second you put them back out onto the road, all those old habits from the road are going to come creeping back in. You have to,
Mhm.
it's a slow game of implementing this. And all my most successful clients I've worked with have been with me over 4 years.
Yep.
And it's the consistency of doing it and getting through these stages of life, because it happens. And they haven't worked out every day for 4 years. I'm telling you, they haven't worked out maybe not even 80% of the time, but they're around that 60 to 70% over a 4 year period. Big changes are going to happen.
Yeah, huge changes. And I think you nailed it on the head. It's something you have to feel in order to believe. And we've all had to get to that own conclusion ourselves. You got to stick with the work long enough to feel those results. And it's probably somewhere around that 45, 60-day mark, somewhere in there. I'm sure it's different for everybody, but if you can stick it out that long and you feel how your body does perform and how your brain works, like the clarity that you have, all of that stuff, like you feel how good you're supposed to feel, and then you never want to go back.
Yep. That's it, dude. Last myth. Let's talk about some supplements. And
Let's talk about
I like this
supplements.
because supplement, the word itself, should tell you exactly what these are for. And the
Hmm.
myth that we're unpacking here is that supplements can replace a good diet or proper training, nutrition, whatever it is. You're taking these things instead of working out. You're taking these things instead of eating the proper macronutrients, whatever it is. That is, I'll let you answer this. Fact or fiction?
Yeah, definitely fiction as
Thank
far
you.
as like being a shortcut. So I just realized as you were introing this topic that I haven't had as many people ask about supplements right off the bat. early on, like that was as soon as we would sign somebody up like with us, like they're like, yeah, I want to be a client. Like the first question they would ask is, what supplement should I be taking?
Mm-hmm.
And there may be a shift happening. Maybe they're most of our clients now are listening to the podcast. Maybe they're getting better information through our other channels and things. But I haven't noticed that question near as often. But that should tell you something, that when somebody's first question, when they're signing, like when they're starting a program that is going to involve training and nutrition and like all these other things, like all these big rocks, they ask about supplements first.
Mm-hmm.
And supplements are probably the smallest part of what we do. They might be
The
like the
smallest,
tiniest little portion. Like you
1%.
have to, yeah, you have to move all those big rocks first in order, like, to be able to gain any benefit from using supplements. And so I think a lot of them are just overhyped in the market, probably. They
Marketing has gotten
make
too big.
really big promises, like fat
Mhm.
burners and things like that. Like they make these wild promises that they can fix you if you just take this supplement,
Mm.
but we know that that is not how that works.
And for how long? How long is it going to fix, quote unquote, this problem that you're having? It's not going to be forever, because nothing that happens quickly like that lasts a long time. It just doesn't, not without serious, serious lifestyle changes. And like you're saying, the marketing in today's world is just nuts. It's not controlled, first of all, so they can say
Mhm.
some outlandish things that really are not true. But supplement wise, they are exactly what they said. They are a supplementation to your diet, to your current routine. They are meant to fill in the little missing holes because you cannot consistently get this one piece. Let's talk about some overhyped supplements. Pre-workout, fat burners, you just covered. Pre-workout, guys, girls, like it just depends on the kind of person that you are. Do you like to have it before you go exercise? I thought I liked it, and then I
Mhm.
actually figured out that I do way better without any of it.
Yeah.
It gets me too stimulated.
I used them consistently for probably over 10 years, and
I think the majority of the guys our age did.
I've not taken one. I've got one in my pantry. I might have used a quarter of the bottle, so I've probably taken 6 doses of a pre-workout in the last 4 or 5 years. Like, it's just not something that I reach for now.
It also wears like the potency wears off the more
It
you use
does.
it. So you
Yep.
need to cycle those things to get the best effect from them.
Days.
Yep, me too, buddy.
Or you're taking 3 scoops of Jack,
Oh
and then your
man.
face is falling off, and
Yeah,
you
just
can't sleep,
melting.
and you're like, "What's happening to
What's
me?"
happening? I'm having a panic attack. Yeah, I was definitely in that same boat, bro.
Oh,
But
yeah, the good old
I'm
days.
oh man. And what was like No Explode and all those?
Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
man.
yeah.
No Explode made me puke almost every time I drank it.
Yeah.
I
Super
hate it.
Pump, the orange
Super Pump. Yep.
Rich Gaspari's Super Pump was the
Yep.
first one I ever took, and that was a life-changing experience. I was, like, running around the gym. My coach was like, "What the hell is wrong with this kid?" And I'm just
All
like,
hopped up on Mountain Dew.
all over the place. It was a
What
great
about
workout.
yeah, hell yeah. No, I'm pretty sure some of the things they put in there were real drugs at times.
Yeah, had to be.
What about beneficial supplements, man? Things that we recommend to our athletes and our clients and we take ourselves, and the list of supplements I take is pretty small.
Mhm.
Protein, some kind of post-workout protein. I use a whey protein,
Mm.
and I don't even remember the company I'm using right now. It's one that my wife found, but they have really minimal ingredients. It tastes great. Creatine is going to be the other supplement that I'm using regularly. I love creatine. Let's unpack another myth there, because what about
Mhm.
if you take creatine, you hold water weight?
Yeah, or you get bloated or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's all kinds of myths around creatine. Creatine is one that is not overhyped. It is probably over mythicized, if that's a word.
big time.
There's a lot of
It's the
hate
most
on
studied supplement there is out
Yeah,
there.
there's a lot of hate on creatine, and there's no reason behind it. It's safe for pretty much everybody from 18 to 88, and they're even finding like even younger people.
Mhm.
Like it's hard to study like those weird population, or the not weird, but those protected populations like kids and pregnant women and things like that. But
I'm gonna be
they're
putting that shit in Wilder's breast milk, bro.
well, they are everybody that knows what creatine's capable of all has an inkling that it is probably safe and probably could be beneficial for those other populations like pregnant women and kids. And so I'm seeing more articles written about it. I don't know if there's any studies quite yet that show the
I haven't
effectiveness of
seen
those.
any on young or adolescent
Yeah, I've seen
people
some
yet.
recommendations around pregnant women, but I haven't seen any on younger kids
What
other
did it
than
say?
like
What are the
people.
stuff you read about the pregnancy?
There was a research facility out of Australia.
Also, rodeo
I'd have to
athletes
look it up, but
like you, your main energy system when you're competing is like CP, creatine phosphate. So having creatine in your system is going to help fuel that system as well. And so it's another really easy way. And also, to get the proper amount of creatine you need in a daily dose, you need about 5 pounds of red meat. Eating 5 pounds of red meat in a day is a chore. So
Mhm.
that's where these supplements, to supplement the fact that that is not a feasible thing to eat 10 or 5 pounds of red meat in a day on a daily basis. That's a great cue to say, okay, this is a time to introduce a quality supplement to make up for the fact that it's not probably not healthy to eat 5 pounds of red meat in a day, but nonetheless, it's a great way to help your body have enough of that for your energy systems. And another benefit is neurologically, mental sharpness. Creatine has direct ties to increasing your mental clarity,
Yep. Yeah,
brain
and
power.
so here's the article I found on the pregnant women. So this is this one I found a while ago. I haven't searched again. There might be more now, but this is from the Hudson Institute of Medical Research, and it says that there is a growing evidence that creatine may be essential for energy production in a range of reproductive tissues, from sperm and endometrium to the placenta. So that's the first part. Like for conception to even happen, like creatine can be beneficial. And then it says there's also evidence that increasing fetal levels of creatine before birth via maternal dietary supplements may help minimize injury to the baby when there are complications during labor that reduce oxygen delivery to the unborn baby. So it helps add a layer of protection like during pregnancy. And so then it says, how safe is it to take creatine during pregnancy? Well, given the benefits of the mother and baby, Dr. Stacey Ellery and her team are investigating the optimal levels of creatine during pregnancy, including creatine supplementation. So, this is like a first of its kind type study that they're wanting to
That's neat.
do, but
That's really neat.
there's no evidence of adverse effects from creatine.
Wow.
And that's pretty much across the board.
Yeah. It's
And
awesome.
it's shown to for rodeo athletes. I think specifically it's beneficial because it has a protective layer or a protective mechanism for brain health. So in recovering from traumatic brain injuries and preventing traumatic brain injuries. So that is wild. So if you experience a concussion, you should probably be taking creatine the next day. Like
Mm-hmm.
get on a regimen. If you are late to the party and that's the only thing you're doing, like at least start after you experience concussion. But if you have not had a concussion yet, take it now because it will help reduce the risk of concussion and help recovery from concussions.
Mm-hmm. It's a, if you aren't
And there
convinced,
is plenty of
hopefully you
studies
are
on
now.
that too.
Yes, there are lots of studies and lots of options out there for quality products that when it comes to creatine. I take Rose, RHO. They have no tie or affiliation with our show. It's just something I've been trying. It's a low liposomal, so it's all liquid. Tastes like bubblegum, to be honest, when I take it, but it's been good, and I've been feeling good when I've been taking it. But there's tons of things you can get. I recommend unflavored if you're getting powdered, so you can mix it with your protein, mix it with your coffee, wherever you want to get it in throughout the day. I know Logan mixes it with his morning coffee
Yep.
every day. Biggest thing when it comes to supplements, though, focus on your real food first. Like we said, supplements are meant to fill the gaps. So again, if you're not getting enough protein throughout the day, or a day is coming up where you're going to be short on protein, introducing that protein shake is going to be a great supplement. Creatine, if you're not eating 5 pounds of red meat a day, probably everybody, a creatine supplement is going to be a great addition. Another thing we haven't talked about, just multivitamins or like greens and reds. I'm a big fan of because a lot of people don't enjoy eating vegetables or don't enjoy eating fruits. And those greens and reds are a great, easy way to get those same micronutrients that you'd be getting from the real source and get them into your body. And again, you're just filling the whole of your diet right there. What else? Multivitamin, you can take that again. Same
Yep.
thing. You're
And then
getting all
probably the other one I would throw in there would be like maybe a joint supplement for athletes or athletic populations. And
absolutely.
then in the winter time, definitely a vitamin D supplement.
Mm.
Those are like the more fringe type ones. But if you're getting protein, creatine, and a quality multivitamin, not the cheapest one on the Walmart shelf, like an actual quality multivitamin, you're probably covering most of your bases there.
Yeah, absolutely. So breaking all this down, y'all, if you're listening and you're like, dang, I need to adjust some things, hopefully some of these tips from the myths that we were busting here will help you reevaluate where you are with your fitness and how you can implement some new strategies to help you get further, whether it's workouts, supplementation, your recovery, mobility. Like, we're here to provide as much information to y'all as we can. So hopefully this is helpful. If you guys have any other questions, please shoot us a message. You can hit us up on Instagram. I'm at champion.living. Paul is at Coach Paul Lloyd. Logan is at logan.championliving, even though he is not here today. Congrats to him and his family. They're going through some big life changes. We'll have a full 2-hour session for him to break down.
Yeah, we will.
His life.
It's going to take it.
Oh, man. But y'all, just remember to keep it simple here. Don't overthink these things. If you're training for rodeo, if you're training for any sport, make sure the training you do is relating to all the things that are happening in your sport. And until next time, we'll catch you later. Y'all, if you're having trouble sleeping or you've got really achy muscles, Power Pro CBD has teamed up with us to bring you their tinctures and their warming lotions. Guys, these have been a crucial part of my nightly routine. Y'all can check them out at PowerPro, PWRpro.com. Use our discount code ChampionLiving, all one word, to save you a good chunk of discount.
If you want to learn more about our coaches and program options, make sure to swing over to our website at www.championlivingfitness.com. You can fill out the Become an Athlete form to set up your free consultation and have all your questions answered by a coach.